What's going on, everybody? Applersky here. Finally, with my Stellar Blade review. It took me a little bit longer than I thought to get this out here. I finally finished the game a couple days ago. Currently in New Game Plus, and I've had a blast with this game. It actually exceeded my expectations in certain areas. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start talking about the positives, right? And everyone already knows what the positives with this game are. It's the combat, okay? That's the biggest, most attractive thing about the game. The combat is on an elite level, especially once you kind of master it and unlock a lot of new abilities. Really, really changes the gameplay up. If you play the demo, I mean, that's really only just a taste of what you can do in this game. And it's kind of one of those games where, when you're out exploring and everything like that, you really like want to fight every enemy on the screen because the combat is just so fun. Like you can get some really cinematic moments if you get your moves right, if you get your parries and your blink right. I mean, it the combat is top notch. It's I would describe it, and I've been describing it this way since I played the demo. It kind of took me by surprise. It's a little bit more akin to like Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor than it is to like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry or other things it's been compared to, even like Souls games. But um, you know, you have your shield, you have your and then the enemies have their shield as well, right? So if you deplete their shield, opens them up to more damage. Perfect parries. If you get the perfect parry, then that drains their balance meter, and that's when you can kind of do like execution moves. That move right there, that's a later unlockable. Those are the burst moves. Anytime you see like the red, those are those burst moves, and that's a game changer right there. It's a whole new set of like special moves, and when you fully upgrade them, they are damage dealers, right? Uh, Another thing too about this that I wasn't really expecting is the gear slots, right? It actually is a far deeper mechanic than I initially thought, and it kind of forces you to play a different way. Like you don't get different like combat stances, but you can kind of make your own build with the exo spines once you find them and upgrade them, and they all do different things, right? So you kind of have to think like if you're getting punished by a boss, and I played it on normal. So if you're getting punished by a certain enemy or certain tactics aren't working, you might want to mess around with some of the exo spines and the gears that you have selected, because they can quite significantly change the way your moves affect different enemies. And uh, another great thing about this too that took me by surprise is the atmosphere that it creates. Like this is Zion right here. This is like the hub city, if you will. You return back here multiple times, and there's little signs of people kind of struggling living there. Really, really cool designed city. A lot to explore. A lot of hidden items that you can find. Some cool side content like this is right here. This is one of the more like in-depth side missions that you'll get here in Zion, and it's just really cool. I suggest that you, when you go there, try to do as much as you can because there are a lot of things to find and a lot of good side content. And when I say good, it's there's only a handful of like ones with cinematics, like, and some of them are multi-tiered too. Like you'll have like three or four missions with the certain set of characters, that you can do. Others are a lot shorter, kind of fetchy quests. But I can appreciate that because like those ones are like pretty fast to do. Like they're not super complex. You just kind of go somewhere, investigate, and then report back, right? Like they're not these long drawn out like, oh my god, I gotta go like collect 100 whatever. It's more streamlined and straightforward. Here we got some more combat. One of my favorite combat moves here. That's so sweet. But now I'll get back to the side content in a bit. But one thing I wanted to actually point out is that playing the demo, my major like worry with the game was in its traversal. Okay, I felt it was a little bit rough and could have been the animations of like swinging on the poles, and I just didn't feel like it meshed well with Eve as a character because she's very nimble on her feet in combat. But then also out of nowhere, you can wall run, and it's kind of funny. I was thinking to myself, I'm already hours into the game, right? And I'm like, what this game needs? It needs a wall run, and I didn't see it in the trailer, so I didn't know. And then finally, all of a sudden, I'm doing wall runs, and not to say every game needs one, right? But this is like a cyberpunk, like Ghost in the Shell, like she's a badass, like she needs that, right? The ability to double jump. The double jump is really what opens up the traversal and makes it. Uh, I'm not gonna call it top tier, but it does make it a lot more serviceable and fun to do. And you unlock that relatively late. So, and again, the length of this game is a lot longer than I expected it to be, but it doesn't overstay its welcome either. Like this, just another option, like perfect example, like with traversal. There's not many segments like this, but they are a blast once you get the hang of them. I was struggling a bit, kind of running into things, but this is just cool, and this also takes you from like one side of the map that you're on, which is like the wasteland, which is like the first big open area that you'd go to. It takes you from one side of it to the complete other side of the map, like seamlessly. So instead of fast traveling, you could use this tunnel and have fun while doing it, and then end up on the other side of the map, which I thought was a pretty cool way, to do so. And then drop into a pool here, and then it's cool. Like you go out of that cave, and you're like, holy crap! Like I completely bypassed a bunch of the wasteland, right? Now, the traversal doesn't have. I mean, it's not perfect, right? It still does have a little bit of jank and clank to it. It's kind of like see the my main complaint is just the bar swinging. Like, come on, that she should be able to be doing that way faster. But once paired with the double jump, and then you can kind of like dodge midair too. It really opens up some cool combinations and able to reach like places that you previously couldn't, right? And so you go back to collectibles and stuff like that. And speaking of collectibles, like this game has a ton of collectibles, like memory sticks of dead people, and if you read them, like it talks a lot about the backstory of what had happened to that specific person, or who's to blame for the Natiba threat, and that was cool too. Like because I felt like the story was almost like non-existent, if that makes sense, but not necessarily in a bad way. It was more mysterious than most games do it, right? This game takes a while for you to really understand what's going on. And so just showcasing some of the like puzzles. The puzzles are actually pretty unique too. I like this one. It's like a paying homage to PlayStation. Like you got to step on the right button, cross, triangle, square, circle, like in the right combination to get through this little area and turn off the laser. I put it in here because I thought that was a cool little touch. I've never seen that before, right? Then you got your fishing. It's a fun little mini game, kind of like Red Dead, not as, you know, realistic, but you could tell they kind of borrowed the mechanics from Red Dead Redemption. And there's a ton of fish too. I think there's like 25 fish. I've only caught like 14 or so. You got to get the right bait, go to the right places. There's a bunch of different like areas you can go fishing, but cool little mini game. And this is what I meant by side content, right? This is a bulletin board that you find in Zion, and there are a ton of little mini side quests here, and I would suggest do all of them because not to spoil anything. I don't want to spoil the story or whatever, but these are impactful to like the outcome of the game. So I would suggest doing as many of them as you can, if not all of them. I did all of them, maybe except one, but very very important. And they're not time consuming either. Like, but this I just wanted to show this. This is kind of like a section in the game where it kind of just reminded me of Dead Space, which is really cool. You know, not obviously not as like horrifying, but like going through this rundown facility with these mutant like humanoids, and you're only using your gun. I just thought that was really cool. Um, and another thing too about this game that I want to give credit to is like how diverse the environments are too. Like I noticed it in the trailers, like, you know, and I don't show them all in here because to avoid spoilers, like some of the later in-game stuff I didn't want to spoil. I'm gonna do a separate video on that when it comes down to the locales that you visit, right? Like towards the end of the game. But here, just another prime example of a completely different environment. You're now like in a subway rather than a desert, you know, and it's just that's appreciative when it's not the same kind of environments over and over. You know, they took advantage of it not being fully open world and sent you to a lot of cool, very detailed places around Earth, which is really cool. And this is like there's a couple of cinematic kind of like Uncharted esque set pieces throughout the game. You're not fully in at control like you are in those games, but it just I couldn't help but be reminded, especially with this scene here of like, and it's done really well too, like very very like polished, like well thought out. I mean, really cool. Just kind of adds. I wasn't expecting it. Just kind of another little portion of the game that made me smile. I was like, oh, cool, because I love the cinematic. You know, when there's no cuts in the camera and it kind of just goes from cutscene to gameplay back to cutscene back to gameplay. Like so, I can appreciate that a lot. But yeah, going back to the story. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I was a little worried when I in the first few hours because you don't really learn anything. Like you're sent there, you're the last one of your squad, and you get saved. You know, by Adam. If you play the demo, you know, and your your main goal basically is to track down an alpha Natiba, which is like the most powerful of the Natibas, right? And there's only a few of them. There's not very many. But it never really like tells you what the Natibas are, how this happened. Eve doesn't. She's just kind of like a soldier told what to do, following orders. But in the later, like probably 25% to 35% of the game, it really opens up and explains a whole lot. And it's, I think, pretty damn cool. Like, the writing and performances are not like gonna win any awards or anything, but the premise of what they've created here is pretty unique. And I don't want to say any more without spoiling anything, but that it made me really happy that they kind of it took a while, but it did deliver for me in the story, as well as like Eve as a character. Like she does grow. Like she, you know, starts out kind of just naive to it and just trying to one track mind herself, but once she starts to meet people and see their struggle and their how they're surviving and or barely surviving, I should say, you know, she kind of like she does have emotion, right? Like she's a really good character. She's not elite, but she's way above average. And same with Lily. Like Lily's really cool. She has a lot of emotion. Adam is kind of like muted, and I think that could be by design. But either way, a sequel, if they can get, maybe get some better writers to deliver on some of, like, some of the more somber moments, or impactful moments for the sequel, I think, it could potentially even be better than this one. But yeah, I mean, that's Stellar Blade. That's my thoughts. I will be doing a platinum review. As soon as I obtain it, I only have a few left, and I'm going to do like a roadmap, because there's a way that you can kind of do it quicker than you think. So look out for that video. Hope you like my review of Stellar Blade, and I hope you're enjoying the game. And see you guys next time. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.